Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert. So today I've got some really exciting stuff going on. I've been building, so I can't take you over to the spot, but you'll see it come together. Within this episode, this has taken a while. Usually I tend to do my intros and my outros, after I finish building or close to finish building. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the speed build. I will say today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter. It's just going to be building, and then we'll take a closer look at it at the end of the episode. And it's not going to get totally finished out. The interior is not going to be done. There's a couple little things I want to add to the exterior and a little bit of landscape work and stuff like that. But we'll get into that later. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the build. So starting out, we're basically just going to start kind of clearing out some of the trees. And I'll take this time to just talk about... So originally when I was planning on this build, I was actually planning on a bit of marble, a bit of living rock, stuff like that, within the build as a whole, like as far as the whole main base. But you can see right here, I decided to go with hardened stone. I was wanting to use some hardened stone, but instead of doing the builds kind of as individual pieces and individual things, I decided to do just a themed build as a whole for our entirety of our build, as far as our base goes. And so we're actually going to be going with hardened stone throughout the majority of the base. Now I will say this build as a whole that we're doing today, it was actually very, very cheap. The most expensive part was the glass, which we'll get into that a little bit later. I did end up adding a mod, which we'll talk about briefly. And there'll be links in the description, of course, for that. But anyways, I decided to go with a very themed build. And I decided to do something that I haven't built with in a while. And I don't know if I've ever done a series on it, to be honest, or using it. But I decided to go with really Gothic style architecture throughout the majority of the base. Now I know in the middle, over the lake, there's the Astral Sorcery area that has a lot of marble. Now on the outskirts, we kind of have that wooden themed type build where the farms are at, right? We're kind of going with wood, and it's a little bit more of like a, I don't know, like the outskirts of the city, but the main section of the city is going to be kind of this Gothic style architecture. And it actually kind of works out because we kind of have this like village hamlet on the outskirts. And then the base is very, it's very magical themed. It's going to be magical even for the tech stuff and all that. So, I think having that bit in the center where the Astral Sorcery is, because of course Astral Sorcery, you pretty much have to have marble, because it's kind of a prerequisite for that mod, to have a lot of that. So, there in the center, it's going to be a little bit different. But for the section that kind of spans around that lake, and then we'll have these big walls around it with the towers and everything, that's all going to kind of follow this Gothic style architecture. Which actually kind of works out because this proved to be extremely cheap, especially after we did our stone generator from last episode. That thing was very, very key for what we're doing here. The glass helped out, although that wasn't the most expensive part of the glass. It was all the dyes at the moment. But that's okay. That's okay. And we did do a little bit of chisels and bits this episode, just as part of the speed build part. It's nothing very elaborate. A lot of architecture craft. As you can see, it's starting to come together with the frame. You can see lots of architecture craft going into that as the frame kind of comes together. And you'll notice that back section there is actually raised above the front section, because the front section is actually going to sit a little bit lower than the back section. So when you're standing on the ground, you're looking up at it, you kind of have this feeling of like, a really layered, really detailed design. Even though overall, the structure and stuff was very, very simple. And once you get the structure up, it's pretty much just a process of connecting all the pieces, right? It's not, to me, that's really what building comes down to, is structure it, and then you just fill it all in, right? It's kind of like coloring in the lines more than anything. So we've got a lot of the base of the structure. I'm kind of just finishing out structure work now. And these sections that come off on the side they're going to sit a bit lower. That section right there that I'm building right now comes up to the full height of, the larger sections there. But then the little side sections that kind of sit down below it, and of course it starts raining, but this build took, I think I had 7 something hours of footage from just replay not to mention prep time and stuff like that. It was a very, very long process of building this. And it was. So anyways, right here I'm building these little side sections. They're going to sit a bit lower because we're actually going to have balconies out here. And the whole back section of this build, by the end of the speed build, is not going to be implemented yet. The reason being is because we're going to have these big walls that kind of span around the base as a whole, and a lot of our structures are going to be built into that wall. And instead of the wall being like this separate section, and then the structures are offset from it, we're actually going to use that wall for the backs of some of our structures and actually have stairs built into them and actually make them kind of feel like part of the village instead of it just being, here's a wall, here's a house. You know what I mean? And now we're starting to add the roof. The roof is just great wood. That's the majority. Like 95% of the blocks I use in this build are hardened stone, great wood, skystone. All three extremely cheap, easy to farm up. Of course, skystone I have to find meteors, but you know what? Whenever you find a meteor, there's tons of skystone. Great wood trees, we get 6 planks per wood, and so, yeah. And every time you see that flash, that's because I've left the chunk and went to either the Astral Sorcery area or my house or the windmill, because I did have to pop over and get materials a bit throughout the process of building this. So it was a bit of a process building all this, to say the least. A lot of materials, but like I said, it's all really, really cheap stuff. So anyways, like I said, the base as a whole is going to kind of follow this architecture style. So what you're seeing here, all this skystone, hardened stone, great wood, that's going to be a lot of what we use across the build. So it's going to be a lot darker of a build. It's going to be a lot of grays and dark browns and blacks and stuff like that, with splashes of color. Once we get to the windows, you'll notice that just really vibrant color that kind of comes through. The mod that I added to the pack, as of right now, I think it's the only mod that I've added to the pack aside from my replay mod, so that I can record these speed builds like I do. But the mod that I added, if you guys have been around on the channel, I actually showed it off when I was showing off, stuff that I've been working for, or working on in my pack that I've been building, is the Cathedral mod. I love this mod a lot, and doing Gothic architecture, it's kind of like it and Chinese Workshop are kind of similar in the regards that if it's just added to a pack, a lot of people may not really use it, because if you're not doing an Asian style build, well, Chinese Workshop kind of loses a lot of its flair. If you're not doing like a Gothic or Cathedral or medieval type build, then the Cathedral mod, it's going to lose a lot of, you're not going to have as much use for it. But when you're doing something like that, having gargoyles and having stained glass and stuff like that is just, it's build changing, and something that you'll really appreciate when you have it. So now a lot of the main structures there, you can see the shape kind of coming together. If you saw in the thumbnail, I mean, this kind of gives you like a general idea of what the overall shape is going to be. It's not super elaborate. It's not a very difficult build. This part I did have a little bit of clipping, my bad, but it's alright. It's okay. It was actually on one of the longer sections of replay that took, a good 20 minutes to render, so it's like an hour or almost 2 hours of footage all in one big chunk, so it took a bit to render, so I was like, it's just like a split second. But anyways, right now I'm just kind of clearing out some of the dirt. We will be doing a bit of landscaping within this overall build, kind of flattening out some terrain, because we have these big castle-like structures, so they would want a bit more flat terrain. And plus I had that big random hill kind of in the middle, and it actually kind of works out well with it all flattened away, because it's basically just a hill that I flattened. No mountain or anything like that that's going into. So right now we're bringing down these beam sections. They will get a bit more detail here in just a little bit. A little bit of chisels and bits love. And then a little bit later on we'll finish landscaping and flattening out, and then bring them all the way down. So and then I'm kind of adding basically some bits to the roof that kind of give it a little bit more detail, and we're going to add a little bit more, and we'll take a closer look at that later. A lot of the underbelly work of the roof and stuff, it would have been really, really hard to get that with replay, because you know, everything's moving fast and it's such tight quarters and stuff like that. I know we've talked about that before, so just kind of did that, and we'll take a closer look at it at the end. It's nothing super elaborate. It's basically just smoothing and coloring within the lines, right? And so right here, I'm kind of finishing out this little front section of the roof and just kind of bringing this out. So we kind of have like this little overhang, and then we're going to have these balcony sections, which actually I think, personally, I think they turned out really, really good. There is going to be some things that change throughout the build. Some of it I got on replay, some of it I didn't. So that little skystone strip there in the center, it goes away. But anyways, bringing that great wood up. I decided to use stairs for the wood sections of the roof, and then, you know, like the smooth wedges for the stone bits. I think the contrast and the shape difference is just kind of nice. I actually quite like it, and I think it works out pretty well in that regard. So, and then we're just bringing the roof sections over and connecting these. Now that roof's not going to be as flat as it looks right now whenever we add the big steeple parts. So, and now we're adding the glass. This is right after I added the cathedral mod, and the glass just really kind of brings this build together. I know, especially for like Americans watching this, it's probably going to look a lot like a church. But I think a lot of the reason being is because generally in the U.S., the only time you see Gothic architecture at all is on a church. So your mind immediately thinks, oh, stained glass and, you know, all this, and you just think of a church. But I will say that the stained glass look is going to be commonplace within this build. That's not to say that every building is going to have stained glass windows, but a lot of them will, especially the larger, I don't know, wealthier type buildings. So, and then right here, I started building this little section up at the top, but it's not going to stay that way. We're actually going to change it up a bit and tear that down. So if you look closely down there at the front and actually along the sides, I've placed some gargoyles. Those are from the Cathedral mod. I absolutely love them. They add so much character to a building like this, I think. Now we're adding these little sections here. I did change my mind. You'll notice that a lot within most of my builds. I change my mind a lot, and I'll tear things down and play around with it and stuff. So I decided to bring these up a little bit differently than what I originally had them. And right now they kind of look like smokestacks. At different parts of the video, I feel like they kind of look like smokestacks. I didn't go with overly large steeples on this building. Some of the other buildings were going to have bigger steeples and actual towers that come up, but this building's actually not, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not like an overly large building. I didn't feel like it needed really, really large steeples, and I think what I put on there was, I think, plenty big for what we were going for. The steeples on the top are a bit larger than the ones on the front, and the ones on the front do get a little bit of a change here in just a second. Which I think I did part of that off camera because I was like, oh yeah, we have quark. And so I started playing with the, if you recall in my last playthrough of Enigmatica, I was using those spectrotheliums. Yeah, I think it's in the next cut actually when I add those. But I used those in the cave section, and I decided to use those for the roof section on this building. So anyways, that's some architecture craft right there. That's a chiseled lapis hemisphere on the front there. And we're about to start a little bit of architecture craft detail work. Now on the balconies, you'll notice right now, those are marble floors. I actually ended up deciding that's way too bright for this build, and ended up dialing back the color, or dialing back the brightness a bit, and doing a combination of cobblestone and skystone, smelted skystone, so we kind of have that gray. Yeah, right here you can see those spectrotheliums, or whatever they're called. Something like that. You can stack those up to 3 high, and they kind of give you the wall fence post iron bar look that you would get in vanilla, but then you can add an iron bar on top and just kind of contrast with it a bit, and they just look a bit better, I think, for this kind of a build. So, and now we're starting to add the sections of the steeples on the top. And I decided to just keep that hardened stone. I mean, I know it's a lot of hardened stone, a lot of gray, but with this kind of a build, I didn't want to add the like faked contrast that you get in vanilla a lot with you know, stone, cobblestone, gravel, these different similar color things together, because in a build like this, you probably wouldn't, I mean, yeah, if it's worn down over time and stuff like this, but this is like, we're kind of building, for one, it's a magical town. It's a very magical themed town. And then in addition, this is kind of the height of its time period, right? So I don't feel like a lot of wear on the building is really in order. I feel like it should be a bit more pristine, a bit nicer looking. And so I didn't really add any like worn down sections of the build, and I'm really happy that I didn't. There's a little bit of contrast there on the front where I have actual hardened stone in the middle of those wedges, which we'll take a closer look at that. But overall, I mean, it's pretty much just hardened stone tiles and hardened stone bricks. And you can see certain ones, like the little bits that come out and go into the pillars that kind of set off from the building, those are tiles, whereas most of the core structure itself is bricks. So I think that's enough contrast for it, personally. So, and you can see around those pillars, I did add a little bit of architecture craft just to kind of contrast on those and give it that splash of skystone that I felt like it needed. And then right now, if you look over there where I'm at, it's kind of hard to spot from back here, but you can see I did a little bit of chisels and bits, and we'll take a closer look at that. It's kind of hard to do chisels and bits in a speed build type scenario. But I will say that what I did is nothing elaborate at all. It's basically just lines with skystone put in them, but they add a lot of just really nice contrast on those pillars. I did not do that in the front. I didn't feel like the front needed it once everything was put in, but I might still do a little bit more at the front. We'll see. But as of right now, I think where we end off, I think I'm overall pretty happy with it. Little stuff to add, but you know, it's kind of a process of this build finding its identity as a whole, right? So, but now I'm adding a bit of architecture craft. These are just the cornice pieces. I love these things. If you guys have seen, you know, my other series, I love cornice pieces because they just add a lot of character with very little effort, which is always nice, right? And I love architecture craft because it's basically, you know, chisels and bits is great if you need certain bits of like really specific detail or in block type detail, but with architecture craft you get those smooth slants, and you know, it's really, really fast to add things with architecture craft, and they add so much to a build. And so up here I'm adding, and I actually added a little bit more to those steeples than what you saw right there, but the replay footage was kind of bugged, so I didn't end up including it. It was a very short section where I basically just landscaped a little bit and added a little bit more. We'll take another closer look at that so you can see it, but I will say, doing a speed build like this and running it at 20-something times speed, there's a lot that you'll probably miss in the process. And then certain things I just kind of add when I'm like taking a step back between cuts. I'm like, where do I want to go next, you know? And it's actually a little bit harder in Enigmatica because I cannot pause the replay. I pretty much have to start it and record and then log off so I can stop the recording and then turn off the recording mod and then go back in and take a look and then come back out, turn it back on, go back in. It's a bit of a process doing speed builds, but it's, you know, it's fun, and I love the Enigmatica pack so much, and I'm having so much fun on here. So and then right now we are working on some of the interior, so yay. Basically I decided we're going to have this lower set section that's going to be and I actually did this on the balconies. We'll see that here in a minute when I changed the marble out. That was in that bit of replay footage that was kind of buggy. Like my character wouldn't render and certain things, it was really, really wonky. But anyways, the floor is a combination of cobblestone and cooked skystone. It's cobblestone tiles. So extremely cheap floor. And then this upper section is just great wood. We will have some carpets and stuff on it, so it's not just going to be solid brown floor. But as far as a baseline, great wood. And I will say those sections up at the top where you can see the roof poking through that great wood, that's not going to be visible long term, so it's not going to be... I always hate the same color floor with the same color ceiling. You know, it's hideous. You're not going to be able to see that great wood. That's just the outer layer, right? So as far as what I did on the interior in this video is mainly just getting the floors down so you get a general idea of the floor layout. And that's, I mean, that's pretty much it. Just putting the stairs in, putting the floors in. There will be bridge sections. We'll talk about those here in just a little bit, but those aren't implemented yet. And yeah, that's mostly all that it is. It's just kind of bringing all this together so you kind of get a feel for the shape. I didn't want just a building where, for a storage building, just a wall full of drawers. I wanted something a little bit different with this build. And so that's basically what we're going for. So, and then we'll have that wall section that kind of fills out the back and brings the whole build together once we get that implemented. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, so this is where we're up to at the moment. With most of the exterior being done, I will say I am planning on putting some banners in, maybe right here. Maybe not like an overabundance of banners, maybe just one on each side. And just some little stuff. And then over here, I've got to figure out what kind of a lamp I want to do. The exterior, we're going to have probably stone that runs around this, but I'm going to wait to do the exterior until I figure out exactly how I want to landscape as a whole with this base, because this is basically going to run around this lake and then, you know, out into the farm area here a little bit with the overall shape. I am going to warp home and just sleep so it's daytime when we look at this. Even though it does look really cool at night, I still have to add a lot of lighting, you know, to the exterior, which within this pack there's a ton of ways that we can do that. Oh, and actually, really, really quickly, I want to show you something, because my manual and armor was about to break, and I knew I needed to repair it, and we had talked about doing that, and I was like, okay, because my chest plate at one point had no durability. It was just about to break. Over here, I set up a magma anvil, and I've just been, you know, a bucket and dump it, and then you throw the armor inside of here. Like, for example, there's that. If we take our chest plate, we toss it in there, boom, it gets repaired because it doesn't have a lot of damage. It does take a bit of lava, but I mean, you can see this little pool here, there's still a lot of lava left over, and it repaired this stuff, both these pieces, from nearly broken to full. I need to replace this piece and this piece, so I'm not going to worry about repairing the diamond. That'll just make me more gung-ho to finish out the manual and set for us. It's just when you can fly, I mean, there's nothing that can really touch us most of the time. Skeletons shoot us on occasion, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So, anyways, let's head back over, and we'll take another look at this. I did add, I know I'll mention it during the speed build part, but I did end up, during one cut, I added Cathedral to the pack. I do have to do a bit here. Because there is, I know of at least, I haven't looked through all of this stuff yet, but, and by the way, this is that glass. This is the Fire G2 Cathedral glass, and then there's the Amber Rhombus glass, which you use chisel. This stuff took a little bit to farm up during cuts, but we have plenty of glass. We have plenty of lead. It's mainly the magenta, the cyan, the pink, and the yellow dyes. But luckily, every craft of this goes pretty far. For these windows. So this is the G2 glass around the edges, and this is the Amber Rhombus in the center is what I did, and that's actually the Fire G2 all the way up. So that's what that looks like. I used that, the Cathedral mod so far. Oh, and this is like one of the, I know this is going to conflict because you use this for the, well actually I used them right here. The basalt speleothium, yeah, those things. Use them for that. By the way, you can craft basalt. It is cobblestone and coal. So you have to craft the quark kind like that. But it is. I remember when we played Enigmatica before, this was not interchangeable with chisel. Between the quark and the chisel versions, now it is. And then we can also make the cathedral basalt with that. So I use that cathedral mod for the glass and also for the gargoyles because I quite like them. And I believe that's the only thing within this. Oh, and then these rails. So these are basalt railings. I like the way these look without having to go like chisels and bits or architecture craft for our rails. And I figured we'd add that and use those rails because I'm going to be using a lot of these. Yeah, so bit by bit, because I know it's kind of hard to follow it in the speed build segment, a lot of this is architecture craft, if you couldn't tell. So this is all cornice pieces, and then there's roof tile slants there to kind of give this window a little bit more character than just a big square window. I will probably add a little bit of like maybe a border that runs around this window and stuff. If you noticed in the speed build, I started with marble here, but then I just felt like that was way too white. So I actually switched this over to cobblestone and skystone on this deck section, as well as inside of the building there. And then these sections up here, once again, architecture craft. I did the window panes up here. And I know the layout of these is not even, and that's kind of on purpose. So we've kind of got these two in the back that are a little bit closer, and this one here. I actually thought about making this one a little bit larger, but then I felt like it blocked everything behind it, so I just left it. I think it's going to work all right. I think from the front it looks nice, and then if you pop over to the side, it still looks pretty cool, I think, even without them being even. But it adds a little bit more character than having them perfectly even, I think. And we're going to have a lot of different types of steeples probably throughout this build as it comes together. A little bit of the underbelly. This, if you didn't notice, I was doing chisels and bits for this. So this is chisels and bits with just the, this is all hardened stone tiles. And this stuff, this is a lot of the reason that I wanted that stone generator that we made last episode, because we need smooth stone, 5 pieces, 4 pieces of cobblestone for 8 hardened stone. So just like that. And I used a lot of it. Plus making the basalt. Plus doing, the cobblestone floors and stuff like that. And just, yeah, it adds up quick. So up under here, I did smooth all this out. I didn't bother showing that on camera because it's really hard to kind of do this and do a speed build, So I was like, okay, well, I'll just do this. So this is all just kind of smoothed out. And then architecture craft here with the hardened stone and hardened stone there. That's the bricks. That's just the straight stone. So it kind of gives it like a texture difference. And I decided to use stairs instead of making this fully smooth. I just think it gives it more character overall. So that's what that is. Right here, these are those basalt speleothems. And basically you can stack these 3 high. If you break these, they will give you back nothing. Unless, I think you can use Silk Touch on them. Actually, yeah, I know you can use Silk Touch on them, but you have to use Silk Touch. So, anyways, you could stack these up to 3 high, and they give you that kind of size difference. So, kind of as like if you had used a wall, a fence post, and then an iron bar, but then you can stack another one on top, and I don't know, it gives it just a lot of that personality. So, let's see, and then over here. This is all pretty much uniform. It's actually a very easy build once you get it rolling. And I think the base as a whole is going to be a very easy build as a whole once we get it rolling. So it's basically finding our exact color palettes because it's going to be using a lot of the same blocks throughout the entire build. A lot of great wood, a lot of hardened stone, a lot of skystone, and then cathedral, some cobblestone. One thing I do want to use in some of our builds a bit later, coal coke, because I love the way that these coal coke tiles look. I really wanted them maybe for this build, but I don't have them automated at the moment, and we need a lot of them, so I was like, well, we're not going to use it for this build, but that's fine. We can use it for later ones. I mean, it's just a lot of pieces. It's not... that's pretty much it. It's a lot of great wood, skystone, hardened stone. It's actually a very simple build, not super elaborate. Like I said, it does need a little bit of character here on this front section. I'll figure out something. I mean, that's probably just going to come to the clutter phase. And then I have this little section that kind of comes through, and I quite like it. I don't know. It gives it a bit of character when you step out here from this section. And I think it works out well. And then if we step inside, it's a little bit dark in here right now because I haven't done any lighting. Interior is mostly nothing at the moment. I will say, I'm gonna put some rails up around this and some handrails up by the stairs. That's a peace candle, by the way. I had to go out and found another peace candle. I went off think it was, yeah, it was this village right here that I found one. So it was that building right there, actually. Of course, those have a chance to spawn in churches, villager churches. So, but this floor needs a ton of work. But this is just basically showing you the layout of things. So we'll have these like little, I don't know, little hall sections that come out, and we could put, you know, maybe drawers or something like that. Because this is overall, this is going to be a big storage building. I know it doesn't look like probably what you would think of as a storage building, but that's what's going to be, is a big storage building. Basically, instead of having everything compacted like in other series I've done, where I have like, okay, this is a storage room and it's really compact, drawers, kind of like what we have over in the, you know, in the farm area or the smith or something like that. This is our big major storage center. Not AE2 in here, but just basically storage for AE2. And so I wanted lots of space. I don't want to cover up the windows, and I don't want it to basically just be a big room of drawers on the walls. I want to do a little bit different stuff with it. So there will still be some drawer walls like back in here and stuff like that, but we'll do something a little bit different in here, I think, for a lot of this. Which this area back here, of course, it doesn't have a back wall. We'll talk about that in just a second. But stairs that go up to this floor. This floor is going to get like a bridge section that crosses over right here. And then, of course, you can go down to this end and cross around like that. And then we'll probably have a big window right here. So when you're walking through this section, you kind of get a window on both sides, I think is what I'm going to do. Because this section here is like kind of technically outside, but also kind of feels like inside. I don't know. But yeah, so, and then if we go up, we'll have another bridge section that crosses over, and then this section up here. So, that's pretty much the build up top. I will say that this section up here will be accessible. And this is going to basically kind of plug into the base as a whole. That's why I left this whole back section open, is because we're actually going to have a wall. And these steps are actually going to step into that wall and use that wall kind of as a section of the building, while still being, you know, the base wall that kind of runs around the base. And I think it's going to be pretty cool once it's all done. But, and then I think this will actually connect into the wall as well. Though I'm not for sure if I want to do that or not. But we're basically going to make the wall of the base, instead of just being a wall, it's going to kind of, all the buildings and stuff are going to kind of go into that. Or not all the buildings, but a lot of the buildings are actually kind of go into that and use that wall, instead of it just kind of being there and then the buildings are set off separate. You know what I mean? So the wall is going to kind of run around. It's going to be a very tall wall, and we're going to take it pretty ornate to kind of match the architecture. It's going to be awesome fun. So we will start that before too long, because I want to at least get the section behind this, so we don't just have this big open section here. So we will start that before too long. And then the wall is going to come up to, say, I don't know, maybe right up here and just kind of overlook the top of this. And so it would actually be a rather tall wall. We've got like some Attack on Titan stuff going on here. But yeah, so it'll be a pretty decent sized wall. But that way we can build some pretty big stuff, and not every single building and house and everything kind of towers over this little like 5 tall wall, you know. You'll still be able to, like, from the outside, you'll still be able to see these steeples kind of sticking up probably over the wall if you're standing about right here. But overall, I mean, this wall is going to kind of conceal most of this building. So, but that's the general idea. I hope you guys like it. I'm not going to keep on rambling. I know this is, by the time I do the speed build talking bit, it's going to be just a huge ramble of an episode. But I will say, like, I know this episode is going to be shorter. That's okay. We finished what we came to do, you know. And then next episode, we'll kind of start working on the inside a little bit. Start some work on that, and then we'll probably move into another speed build and work on the wall that goes behind it, and maybe some of the interior. Though, honestly, speed building, it's kind of a pain to do on the interior for buildings. So this will probably just be somewhat off-camera-y type stuff. I mean, we're basically just decorating, but we got the majority of the outside done, so that's good. All that's really left is kind of cluttering and then landscaping around it. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a really, really fun build for me personally. I had a lot of fun with it. I haven't really done Gothic architecture in a very long time. As far as building, I don't know that I've ever done it as a theme for a series, so... But anyways, I'm going to end out this episode here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This episode took a while to do, as you can probably imagine. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button. And go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out. I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, as always, do take care. Stay safe. I'll see you guys then.